This is a topic that goes beyond just Terminator Cobras. It covers pretty much anything, any kind of low mileage collectible car that people collect. But as this channel focuses around Mustangs and Cobras specifically, it's geared more towards that, but the umbrella falls under everything for the most part. Now, because Facebook groups are generally a cesspool of ignorance, whenever someone posts a photo or a description of their low mileage Cobra that's not really ever driven, it's kept as a collector car, you always see comments of, oh, if I had that I would drive it, it should be driven, it's not meant just to be sit and looked at, all those types of comments. But the thing is, a lot of those comments, a lot of people that say that exact thing, if they had that car in particular that they're shitting on basically, they wouldn't drive it either. Because if you have a car that's considered collectible status, still in the wrapper or something like that, like I've seen like a 6 mile Terminator Cobra that's been passed around to a few different owners, but no one's ever going to drive it. The minute you take that wrapper off or start putting mileage on it, all the value of that car is gone at that point. So if one of those people actually did have that car, they wouldn't drive it either, because you're basically taking money and flushing it down the toilet, or you could just stuff it in the garage, leave it there, sell it years later and make money. Should every car that's made be driven? Are collector cars meant to be driven? It's my personal opinion on it is this should be both. This Cobra that I bought, I did not buy the lowest mileage Cobra. Despite a lot of the comments that I get in photos and video on the car, it's not the nicest Cobra out there. You guys would be shocked if I did a video on all the things that are actually wrong with this, as far as blemishes, imperfections, paint chips, stuff like that. This is a driver car. I didn't buy this to say something like, oh, look at how low the mileage is on my Cobra. Honestly, I don't really care. It's got 82,536 miles on it right now, and that doesn't bother me at all, because I bought it to drive and I bought it to mod, and you can't do that with a collectible car, because like I said earlier, it absolutely ruins the value of it. But it doesn't mean that those cars don't have their place either. I think the simple answer is just own both. And believe me, I would love to have 2 Cobras or something rare and collectible in this at the same time. Some people have been able to do that. Right now it's really hard especially with Cobras in general, because the prices on them have been pretty high the past couple of years. I think right now they're kind of starting to level off. Whether they drop or not, I think really depends on the economy and how that's going to shape up over the next 6 months. But not to get into politics and economics on my channel, but as it stood the past couple of years, if you wanted to own a Cobra, it was hard. And if you want to own 2, and especially a lower mileage one, which would be considered a collectible one, it's even harder the past 2 years to do that. I think the low mileage collectible Cobras definitely have their place. I appreciate those as much as I appreciate ones like mine that are driven and modded and were built for the purpose of why they were built in the first place. But I think it's important to keep that status of what the cars were when they first came out. You don't see very many completely stock Terminator Cobras anymore, and that comes down to 2 things. Either they're wrecked and parted out, or they're just parted out in general, or they get modded. And once you go past a certain point with modding these, it's really hard to go back. But it doesn't seem like that's really done very often. It seems like once these cars are modded and they go up for sale, people really don't put them back to where they were stock. Either they don't have the parts, or they just don't bother, because you can get as much money for these when they're modded as they are when they're completely stock, and I mean that in terms of equal mileage. I'm not talking about a stock 2,000 mile Cobra versus a modded 50,000 mile Cobra. There is quite a price difference between those two. And even beyond just the Cobra itself, there's another tier of Mustangs higher than the base Cobra. For example, like the Cobra R's, the 93, the 95, and the 2000. Those are ones that are really, really collectible. I would really love to add something like that to my garage someday, a Cobra R or another rare sought after Cobra or Mustang in general, but you know, time will tell if things like that ever happen, but I'm always looking and trying to find ways to make it happen. If I were to see a completely stock Terminator Cobra still wrapped in plastic with single digit mileage on it, I would be just impressed with that car as I would be with something that's fully built and extremely clean and extremely well done. I think they both have their place within the Terminator community, and I don't really think that saying that all cars should be driven is really true, because there are a certain level of cars that are very collectible, like the Cobra R's and things like that, that really, in my opinion, shouldn't be driven when there's so few of them around. You have your 1993 Cobra and then your 1993 Cobra R. Two different worlds. I mean, the 93 Cobra R, I believe there was 107 made. That's not a car you're going to drive around all the time. And the 95 Cobra R was very limited in production, I think like around 250. And the 2000 Cobra R was at 300. And other than a few of those examples, which were probably raced, maybe other than a 93R, because it really wasn't that good of a platform to be raced as compared to the 2000R. But you know, there are some 2000Rs that have been raced, but I think the majority of them have been stuffed away, and they are collectibles, and they will be sold down the road for probably big money, because I've been watching the 2000R market for the past couple of years, and that's definitely been going up quite a bit. But let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you think that all cars should be driven regardless of their mileage, whether it's a Cobra R or a Terminator Cobra, even with low mileage on it? Or do you think that the collectible cars have their place and are special and should be kept that way as like a preservation of what these cars started out as, and you know, that's just the life they're going to lead as a collectible? If you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like, and if you're new here, consider subscribing. There's a lot more content coming up with this Cobra over the winter months and for next year, as I'm going to be pulling even more power with this, even though I said I was going to stop at a certain point, but you know, plans change, I guess. But above all else, everyone, thanks for watching.